Check one more thing. Microphone volume. All looks right. Okay, let's start inshallah. We were based with Surah Al-Haqqah, the inevitable event, the inevitable occurrence. And we were going through it at some place. I think we ended on verse number 18 last week. We ended on verse number 18, yes. So we'll just read a couple of verses and then we'll continue. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, بعد أن أقول أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم فإذا نفخ في الصور نفخة واحدة وحملت الأرض والجبال فدكتا دكة واحدة فيومئذ وقعت الواقعة وانشقت السماء فهي يومئذ وأرجائها ويحمل عرش ربك فوقهم يومئذ ثمانية يومئذ تعرضون لا تخفى منكم خافية. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaking about the events of Qiyamah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaking about the events of Qiyamah. What's going to happen on that day? After Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke about the destruction of the people in this life. So what happens here? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes, the terrors of Qiyamah. The trumpet is going to be blown into a single blow. The earth and the mountains will be carried and they will be leveled in a single blow. On that day, the inevitable occurrence will occur. The skies will rip itself apart and it will be weak and infirm on that day. The angels will be on the edges of the skies, on the edges of the sama. Some of us mentioned that this means there will be a spectrum of the heavens and they will be working at the ends of those spectrums. The spectrum, which comprises of heaven, and they will be entering people into heaven and they will be entering people into hell. وَيَحْمِلُ عَرْشَ رَبِّكَ فَوْقَهُمْ يَوْمَئِذٍ ثَمَانِيَةٌ. And there will be 8 that will be carrying the throne of their Lord above them. Right? So there's this idea that on Qiyamah, the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will become present. Now, we don't imagine in our minds that Allah's going to be sitting on the throne, like and create an image of Allah in our minds. We never do that. Right? From an Aqidah perspective, we don't create an image of Allah in our minds and then think of a king sitting on a throne and then say to our minds, that's Allah. No, we don't try and imagine Allah or confine Allah to a form or anything like that in our minds. But we understand that the throne itself, the throne will be presented, and it's like just the presentation of that throne on that day will indicate to the authority on that day. That throne is like, it's a real creation, but it also serves as a symbol for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's complete authority on that day. In this life, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we could live oblivious to Allah. But on that day, there can be no oblivion to the authority of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then Allah says, يَوْمَ تُعْرَضُونَ لَا تَخْفَى مِنْكُمْ خَافِيَةٌ. So yes, on one level, the throne is going to be presented. It's going to be carried by these 8 majestic angels. But then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, what else? Who else will be presented? On that day, تُعْرَضُونَ, you will be presented. You, who's you? You are referring to the reader of the Quran, all of us. Right? We will all be presented. لا تخفى منكم خافية. And no secret of yours, no hidden thing from you, or no hidden person from amongst you will be hidden. No person that tries to hide, or no secret will be hidden on that day. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala goes on to describe the next scene. So it's as if Allah was creating this, this scene of preparation of Qiyamah. There's first going to be this flurry of activity, of terror, and of, destruction. And it's as if the stage is being set now for some important event to happen. And then Allah goes in after this verse, from verse 19 on, into what that event is. And that event now, beyond just being Qiyamah, resurrection or destruction and resurrection taking place, but it sets the scene for what? For Hisab. And that's the important part of this whole thing. Not just the fact that you're going to live again, not just the fact that you're going to have another life, but that you're going to have another life that comprises of the consequences of our actions in this life. Right? Or, yeah, that's primarily actually focused on the consequences of our actions in this life. If you're a good person in this life, if you believed in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and did good deeds, then you will face a certain fate. And that fate begins somewhere. On that day, the fate begins somewhere. And on the other hand, you have another group of people that will face a different fate, and their fate also begins over there. Right? And what do you think that fate or that stage of this hisab is represented by? It is, it's represented by the idea of the kitab. Can you guys hear me? Am I breaking up? My thing is unstable. Anyways, um, it's represented by the kitab and receiving the kitab either, in your right hand or in your left hand from behind your back. That's what it's represented by. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to focus on that now. Allah says, فَأَمَّا مَنْ أُوتِي كِتَابَهُ بِيَمِينِهِ. فَأَمَّا, amma means what? As for. Right? When you want to speak about a certain subgroup, then you use it. فَأَمَّا أَمَّا هَذَا وَأَمَّا ذَلِكَ. As for this, then this is what follows on from there. And as for that, something else applies to that. So amma means as for. فَأَمَّا, so as for. Man, man, the one who. You know that? Utiya. What does utiya mean?
Is given.
Utiya is the majhul form of the verb ata yu'ti on the fourth verb. Ata yu'ti means to give.
To give.
So utiya, yu'ta means to be given. Utiya means to be given. So if you have here utiya, that's a majhul verb. When we have a majhul verb, what are we looking for?
Naibul fa'il.
That's correct. We're looking for the naibul fa'il. So my question is, what is the naibul fa'il over here? فَأَمَّا, as for the one who utiya. Firstly, how do you look for the naibul fa'il? The same way that you look for a verb, right? What you guys are, I get mixed up now. Is it ili or ali or whatever? We use different ones for different clauses. We first look at the end, right? Is there anything at the end or on this verb, utiya? That's
No.
the standard. The verb is ata, yu'ti, and the majhul is utiya, yu'ta. Utiya. That's exactly what we have. So there's nothing at the end of it. Is there anything first after the end? We look to the left. Is there anything to the left? This one's a bit trickier. The word to the left is in which hal?
Nasb.
That's in nasb. So will that be in the naibul fa'il?
No.
No, it's something else, and it's very close to the naibul fa'il, but it's not a naibul fa'il. Um, if it's not on it or at the end of it, and it's not to the left of it, then where do we look last? Inside it. Inside this word is utia. Inside utia is he, and that makes sense because before it we had a ismul mawsul, and that must always be qualified. And so we should have known to just imagine inside it a huwa, referring back to that. As for the one who he is given, what is he given?
His record, kitab.
He's given his kitab. Now, usually when we're looking for maf'ul, if it answers the question, who was the action done to, or what was the action done to, what do we call that? Both of those get called the
مفعول به.
maf'ulun bihi, for both of them. Now, here what happens when you have a majhul verb. So tell me now, the naibul fa'il is actually the is actually in meaning a maf'ulun bihi, but we call it a naibul fa'il because we know in a majhul verb there's not going to be any fa'il mentioned. So what would you call this word over here? Kitaba.
استخدم مفعول به.
What hal is it in?
نصب.
It's, not, it's still a maf'ulun bihi, right? So we're going to call maf'ulun bihi, and I said in the comments as well, maf'ulun bihi, but we'll just say thanin, the second maf'ulun bihi. Now it sounds funny because we didn't call anything else the maf'ulun bihi al-awwal. We call it the naibul fa'il. But if you understand it correctly, the naibul fa'il is in meaning actually a maf'ulun bihi. We just call it a replacement for the doer because in a majhul verb context, there will not be a fa'il mentioned. So the naibul fa'il is actually the first maf'ul. And then the first thing that looks like a maf'ul is actually the maf'ul thani. Understood? Naibul fa'il. And I'm just going to put a dash here, or maf'ulun bihi, or rather I should say maf'ulun bihi in meaning. Right? It's the maf'ulun bihi in meaning. And that's why we call this the kitabahu, we call it maf'ulun bihi thani. فَأَمَّا مَنْ أُوتِيَ كِتَابَهُ, as for the one who is given his book, بِيَمِينِهِ, he's given his book in his right hand. May Allah make us all receive our books in our right hand. فأما من أوتي كتابه بيمينه فيقول so he will say. So we have the amma at the beginning. As for this group, then like it's as for this group, this is what will happen with him. فيقول, so he will say ها 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 yeah. What does it mean? ها is like a command. Come. That yeah. ها is like a command. Yeah. It's, when you're saying it to a group, you're saying it to all of them. ها come. اقرأوا, read كتابية, read my book. So the word ha is made up of two parts actually. It's the word ha and and it means it looks like a noun, but it actually has the meaning of a command. The word ha made up of two parts, ha and it looks like a noun, but it has the meaning of a command. And there's other verbs like that as well. Um, there's other command verbs that look like that. It's like a ismul fi'al. It looks like a ism, but it's actually a command. Uh, like haytalak, like uh, some others. Hayhata. There's others like that as well. Um, it's what we call in Arabic ismu fi'alin. Ismu fi'alin. Why is it called the ismu fi'alin? Because it looks like a ism. It doesn't look like a fit on our verb scales, but it has the meaning of a command. Right? It's a ismu fi'alin. And this different meaning for it. As I told you, one can mean ta'al, can mean ta'al to a group, and it can also mean khudh, take. So it's like some of the person will be saying to people, take, like, you know, take my book, or come here, اقرأوا and read كتابية, read my book. So the word كتابية, what's happening over there? The word كتابية is actually the word كتابي. The word كتابية is actually just the word كتابي. There's a ha attached at the end, ha usakt. That ha is just so that you can end and maintain the endings of the verse. Right? And so it has the rhetorical meaning in keeping the flow of the sound of the Quran. There's other places that where this happens as well in Surah Al-Qari'ah. Um, وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا هِيَهْ. Right? The word is actually mahi, but that ha is attached at the end just to create that that sound and to maintain like the endings of the verses. Kitabiyan. That فأما من أوتي كتابه بيمينه فيقول هاؤم اقرءوا كتابيه. As for the one who's given his book in his right hand, he will say, هاؤم come, yeah, take my book. اقرأوا كتابيه, read my book. إني ظننت أني ملاق حسابيه. Can you hear that? You know, there's like a sound feature that's created, audio feature that's created when you in on that heavy sound of a ha, that deep sound of a ha. فأما من, just listen to the verses. فأما من أوتي كتابه بيمينه فيقول هاؤم اقرءوا كتابيه إني ظننت أني ملاق حسابيه فهو في عيشة راضية في جنة عالية قطوفها دانية كلوا واشربوا هنيئا بما أسلفتم في الأيام الخالية وأما من أوتي كتابه بشماله فيقول يا ليتني لم أوت كتابيه ولم أدر ما حسابيه يا ليتها كانت القاضية ما أغنى عني ماليه هلك عني سلطانيه خذوه فغلوه ثم الجحيم صلوه ثم في سلسلة ذرعها 70 ذراعا فاسلكوه إنه كان لا يؤمن بالله العظيم. And that's where it changes. But do you hear that sound effect that's created with that hat and it's like a deep sound. And it like adds to that imagery of the day of Qiyamah. Right? Uh, so that's why it's there. It's called Hausak. That's actually, it's not, doesn't actually change the meaning of the word. The word is kitabi, but the ha is there to create that, to make you stop on that word, and to make you stop with that heavy ha sound. That's so. So one group of people we say, أما من أوتي كتابه بيمينه, the one who's given his book in his right hand, فيقول, he will say, come, read my book. Why does he want me? It's like, it's your report card, basically. It's your report card of this dunyawi test. So this guy is so happy on that day, he can't contain his happiness. He tells everybody, yeah, come read my report, come read my report. And the Mufassirin say that that ha'um, that command to come, or that command to read the book, is directed to the pious people. So the people that get this book, they will be, looking at all the good people of this world, and they'll be telling them, yeah, read my book, read my book. And what will he say about it? إني ظننت أني ملاق حسابية. إني, indeed I, ظننت, what does ظن mean? ظن comes with a variety of meanings. But what do you think it means over here? Who? You think, yes. Sometimes, I think we might have come across it before, has a meaning of like to just do, which is like you thinking, but you're not basing your thinking on anything valid. Right? However, that's its only meaning. Oftentimes, and actually most of the time, in in our Arabic discourse, when you say the word dhann, it means probable thought. But when it's used in the Quranic sense, sometimes it means to have conjecture, sometimes it means to just think, and sometimes it means to think with certainty. Now, in this case here, it means to think with certainty. So what did he say? He's telling everybody to come read my book, come read my book. May Allah make us from those who get their books in their right hand. Right? He will say, Inni, indeed I, dhanantu. I thought, but I was certain. That's what it means over here. What did I think? Anni, that I, mulaqin hisabiyah. Mulaqin comes from the word laqa, yulaqi. What's the root of it? Mulaqin. What's the root of it? The root of it is laqiya. Lam, qafiyah. This we have, the word mulaqin is from the third bab. So if you say that scale, how will it sound? Laqa, yulaqi, liqa'an, or mulaqat, and then mulaqin. It's supposed to be mulaqiyun, but we know when we have a weak letter at the end of those ones, and what happens at the end of the ismul fa'il? When we have a tanween at the end of it, of a word that has a weak letter as its last letter, what we call that? We call that ismul manqus, or a naqis verb. Did you do a weak letter verbs at any point?
Yes, no, no, no.
Right. So tell me, what kind of weak letter verbs do you get? Just ones that just have one weak letter. Either the weak letter is the first root letter, or it's a second root letter, or it's the third root letter, right? And what do we call them? The first one is mithal, the second one is ajwaf, the third one is naqis. The one that's the last one where it's at the end is naqis. Why? Because that letter often falls away. That letter often falls away. And we replace the tanween, or we replace that whole letter with a tanween at the end. We call that tanween iwad. Tanween, tanween iwad. What does tanween iwad mean? the tanween of replacement. Tanween of replacement. Why? Because that tanween is indicating the replacement or a substitute for that entire letter ya that we omitted, that entire week. Right? That's what we call this ismul manqus. Why I'm going through that whole thing is because you must know what the origin of this word mulaqin is. It's not laqa, it's laqiya. And it's a ismul fa'il. It's ismul fa'il. So, inni dhanantu anni mulaqin hisabiyah. Indeed, I thought with certainty that I, mulaqin, was a meter, or I was inevitably going to meet. Literally, it's a ism, so it means I was one that would meet. What would I meet? Hisabiyah. Hisabiyah. Again, this word is just hisabi. Hisabi. There's a question that I want to ask here. I don't know if I should. Okay, let me ask it. What hal is this word hisabin? Hisab. There's two things here. There's three things actually. There's the word hisab. There's the ya that makes it mine, and then there's the ha. Right. Good. The word hisab is in nasb. Why? It looks like it ends in a kasra, but why is it in nasb? It's a maf'ulun bih,
مفعول
not for
به.
any verb, right? Right, it's a maf'ulun bihi. That's correct. But it's not a maf'ulun bihi for a verb. It's a maf'ulun bihi for this noun here that's acting like a verb. This ismul fa'il that's acting like a verb. It's actually a noun, but it's acting like a verb. So what he's saying, indeed, I thought that I was going, or I was certain that I was going to meet my reckoning. I knew that this day would come, and that's why I ended up getting my book in my right hand. Meaning I prepared for it. I lived my life knowing that I would meet these consequences. So what does Allah say? What is the outcome? On account of having that conviction that he would meet the consequences of his actions, that he would meet his reckoning. What is it? Fahuwa? Fa means what? Literally we translate it as so, but what is it indicating meaning? That this sentence here follows on from the discourse that came before. How did the discourse before start? Indeed, I was certain that I was going to meet my hisab. So, meaning, so on account of that, هو في عيشة راضية. On account of that, so he is in عيشة راضية. عيشة, عيشة means life. What kind of life? راضية. This is feminine word. That's why the feminine of feminine. في عيشة راضية. When something is راضٍ, when something is راضٍ, what does it mean? Something that's pleased. So he is in a pleasing life. That person, after meeting his hisab, getting his book in his right hand, recognizing now that there's good consequences to how he lived his life, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, now he is في عيشة راضية. Now he is in a life that pleases him. The nature of that life is there just to please him. The nature of this life, yeah, the one before our hisab, yes, it's a life of contentedness on account of our connection with Allah. But the nature of the life is one that has taklif. There's some degree of responsibility and difficulty in it. It's not entirely there to please you. Right? The net effect is that you are pleased and you're content because of your belief in Allah. But the nature of the life is that there is some degree of test in it. Yeah? But Allah says there now he is in a life that is pleasing to him. In ways this. في جنة عالية. And again, this is just Mawsusifa. He's in a pleasing life. And what place is that? في جنة, in a garden. عالية. That is from ala, from ulu, to be high, lofty. A garden that is that is lofty. Why doesn't Allah say the Jannah or anything like that? It actually like magnifies the importance of it. Being nakira here, like it almost exalts it. It magnifies the importance of it. في جنة عالية قطوفها دانية قطوفها. What's قطوفها? It's a plural of,
In bunches.
yeah, right. It's a plural of qitfun, I think. And it means the bunches of fruit. Oh, daniya, from dunu. What does that mean? You know dunya, so you should know its meaning.
Fruit that's hanging low, so you can just reach.
Dunya.
Right. So the word uh, the word daniya could come from two roots, right? Either dunu or dani. And there's two imageries. Either it could be low or it could be near. And what we would understand is actually both of those meanings. The its branches or its bunches will be hanging low, meaning there's abundance. There's abundance, and also it will be near, meaning that it's accessible. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is just describing the complete and perfect uh, luxury that the person will have at that stage. قطوفها دانية كلوا واشربوا. It's a command. There's something omitted here. What's omitted? There's something omitted. What's omitted is that it will be said, or an announcement will be made, or they will be commanded. كلوا واشربوا. Eat and drink. Why is the command left out? Or the fact that it will be said? Because the fact that the idea that it will be announced or said is omitted, it just makes it's almost like somebody serving you now. When you read it, that imagery of somebody serving you now comes to mind. Kulu washrabu, eat and drink hani'an, freely. Kulu washrabu hani'an, eat and drink easily, or yeah, freely rather I should say. بما أسلفتم في الأيام الخالية. بما أسلفتم. Salafa means what? Salafa means to precede. That's why we call our predecessors the Salafu Salihin. This one is Aslafa. Aslafa means to, like what you made precede. So eat and drink bima aslaftum, because of what you sent forth fil ayami, in the days al khaliya. What days are we speaking about here? The past days. Fil ayami khaliya. Hulu actually means for something to be empty. Hulu actually means for something to be empty. So here it refers to those days that are now like, they empty, they finished already. They're open or vacant. And so al-ayyam al-khaliya here means those days that have now passed or bygone. That's what I usually refer to it, those bygone days. كلوا واشربوا هنيئا بما أسلفتم في الأيام الخالية. It's also an expression that's used in Arabic. القرون الخالية, the bygone eras, bygone days, etc. So كلوا واشربوا هنيئا بما أسلفتم في الأيام الخالية. On the other hand, what we have, وأما من أوتي كتابه بشماله. As for the one who is given his book بشماله, in his left hand. And we know this other surah, إذا السماء, I think it comes in إذا السماء انشقت. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about certain groups of people getting their books behind their backs. They've given the book from in front of them in their right hands, rather they've given their books in their left hands but behind their backs. So there's no contradiction. It's just two different descriptions of it. Here Allah mentions in their left hand as opposed to in their right hand. In that surah, Allah mentions they'll be given it to them from behind their backs rather than from in front of them. And that's an indication of a type of disgrace. You don't even deserve to be looked at when given your book of deeds. وَأَمَّا مَنْ أُوتِيَ كِتَابَهُ بِشِمَالِهِ. As for the one will be, will be given his book in his left hand, فَيَقُولُ, he will say, يَا لَيْتَنِي. يَا لَيْتَني. What does that mean? يَا لَيْتَ. It's an expression
Oh, how I wish.
of nadama. Yeah. Oh, how I wish, but it's an expression of regret over here. You know, yeah. يَا لَيْتَني. Oh, how I wish. لَمْ أُوتَ. The verb is أُوتِيَ يُؤْتَى. If you go down the scale, يُؤْتَى يُؤْتَوْنَ. تؤتى يؤتين, and تؤتى تؤتون, تؤتين. I think it's going to be تؤتين, and then أؤتى or أوتى أوتى. But because of the lam before it, instead of being أوتى, it becomes lam أوتى with a short thing at the end. So أوتى means I will be given, or I am being given. Lam أوتى, I was not given. So يا ليتني لم أوتى. Oh, how I wish I was not given كتابية. Kitabi, my book. Again, the ha, that ha is set, and it just creates uh, that alliteration, and also just maintains the endings of the verses. لم أوت كتابية. Now it sounds just like a heavy sound. أما من أوتي كتابه بشماله فيقول يا ليتني لم أوت كتابيه ولم أدري ما حسابيه. درى يدري means to know. أدري, I know. لم أدري, I did not know. So he's continuing. ويا ليت ويا ليتني, and how I wish that I لم أدري, I did not know ما حسابه, what my reckoning was. What حسابيه is, what my حساب is. Right? You can see the same thing. And how I wish I did not know what my hisab is, my reckoning is, my account is. يا ليتها كانت القاضية. He will say, يا ليتها, how I wish it. Aha. How referring to what now? It could be referring to the trumpet blow. Right? Could be referring to the trumpet blow. How I wish that it, the trumpet blow, كانت, it was القاضية. What does القاضية mean? قضى يقضي literally means to pass a judgment. Right? It literally means to pass a judgment. So the understanding of it here is that the qadi is like a final judge. You know, even this, if I put it in this terms, in like Islamic uh, jurisprudence, Islamic law, if you go to a mufti and a mufti gives you a somebody who's appointed as a mufti. Somebody can be a mufti in qualification, or an appointed mufti and an appointed qadi. Like we have something like that here with the MJC. But if you go to a mufti and the mufti gives you an opinion, a legal opinion, then you can take his opinion, or you can go to another mufti and get another legal opinion and take his opinion. That's all fine. But when a qadi tells you something, then you can't go ask somebody else. That's like a final ruling. It's binding upon you. Right? So qadi, Ya is a feminine word, feminine form of the word qadin. And it's referring to this ha. How I wish that it, that feminine thing, without the trumpet, how I wish that it was the final judge. Meaning, how I wish that was just, that was the end. That's what it means over here. How I wish that it was just the end, that, I died and there's nothing more after that. When will he say this? He will only say this after receiving his book in his left hand. يا ليتها كانت القاضية. How I wish that it was just the end. And why would they say something like this? Most people, most people that will be ashamed of getting their book or will be disappointed when they get their book are people who didn't live like those who got their book in their right hand. What was the feature of the people who lived who got their book in their right hands? Allah mentions here, I was convinced, I was certain that I was going to get reckoned. As for these people, what will they say? How I wish that it was just the end. What's their nature? What's their feature? They generally live oblivious to the fact that they will meet that day of reckoning. Whether it be that they truly believe that, like atheists, they don't believe in a life after this life. Right? Those people will say, ما هي إلا حياتنا الدنيا نموت ونحيا. There's only this worldly life. We live here and then we die. ما يهلكنا إلا الدهر. It's just time that will cause us to die. There's not going to be anything after this. On that day, they will regret and they will say, how I wish that was just in. ما أغنى عني مالي. أغنى عن, to avail or to help. ما أغنى عني, did not avail me, did not help me. مالي, my wealth. مالي. Again, that high is therefore to create that effect. هلك عني سلطانية. هلك عني, has perished from me. What has perished? Sultani, my authority. My authority has perished from me. It has vanished from me. And then something will be said to them. That will end there for now, inshallah. This surah is like extremely heavy in its meaning, especially this part of it, the, the next part of it. And I told you one of the names of the surah um, by ijtihad is that it's called Surah to Silsila, the chapter of the chains, because Allah is going to speak about those chains just after this. However, surah like this are not meant really, to get the true effect of a surah like this. It's reading it and thinking about what you're reading, and then letting that thought, that vivid imagery of the day of Qiyamah, shape your action. That's what this is for. And that's why you'll find there how are the verses short. If I go backwards, the verses are short, but like impactful, even just in their sound. Even just in their sound, they're very like impactful. That's why that adds to that impact of the verse. And you know what happened with the Arabs, right? Especially in this Makkah era, they didn't want to listen, so they put their fingers in their ears. But these verses are so short that eventually, when they take it out, they hear another one, very hard-hitting verse. Put their fingers back in, they force themselves to think about it because it was just so, in terms of its sound, it was impacting, and that's why it forced them to think. يومئذ تعرضون لا تخفى منكم خافية فأما من أوتي كتابه بيمينه فيقول هاؤم اقرءوا كتابيه إني ظننت أني ملاق حسابيه فهو في عيشة راضية في جنة عالية قطوفها دانية كلوا واشربوا هنيئا بما أسلفتم في الأيام الخالية وأما من أوتي كتابه بشماله فيقول يا ليتني لم أوت كتابيه ولم أدر ما حسابيه يا ليتها كانت القاضية ما أغنى عني ماليه هلك عني سلطانيه. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us those who get their books in their right hands, who are proud of the reckoning. Allah save us from ever receiving our books in our left hands or from behind our backs. Anyway, Are there any questions before we end? No questions. We'll end there for now, and I'll bring up the our hadith. Bismillah ta'ala.